Fire, you've been taught to chase money, but what if I told you money was designed to chase you? If you became the kind of person it's attracted to, this isn't just about wealth. It's about becoming undeniable. Stay with me, because in the next few minutes, I'm going to shift how you see wealth, happiness, and yourself forever. Wealth doesn't begin with numbers in a bank account. It begins with belief. Before money ever shows up in your pocket, it must first show up in your thinking. That's the missing link most people ignore. They focus on external outcomes instead of internal alignment. They hustle for the harvest without planting the right seeds in the soil of their mind. You cannot attract what you secretly believe you're not worthy of. If deep down you feel like money is evil, or that you're not good enough, or that success is for other people, not people like you, then wealth will avoid you no matter how hard you work. You can't outperform the limits of your own identity. The world doesn't pay you based on effort. It pays you based on how valuable you believe you are. The problem is, many people are running off old programming, messages they picked up as children from broke parents or scared teachers. Beliefs like, money doesn't grow on trees, rich people are greedy, you have to struggle to succeed. These phrases sound harmless, but they build mental walls, and here's the truth. Mental walls become financial ceilings. Wealth is 90% mindset and only 10% mechanics. The strategy matters, but only after you've developed the inner container to hold what you're asking for. That's why two people can get the same opportunity, and one turns it into millions while the other blows it all. Same door, different mindset. Your current financial condition is a reflection of your current financial identity. If you see yourself as someone who's always behind, you'll find a way to stay there. Even if money comes, you'll self-sabotage. You'll spend it too fast, miss the next opportunity, or let fear talk you out of the next big move. Why? Because your mind is set to survive, and not to thrive. If you want to change the fruit, you have to change the root. That means doing the hard inner work, asking yourself questions like, what do I really believe about money? Who told me that? Are they rich? Are they free? If not, why am I still listening? Mindset isn't just motivational fluff. It's the operating system that dictates what you allow, pursue, and accept in your life. If your mindset is infected with lack, no amount of strategy will save you. You'll build small, play small, and stay small. Not because you can't grow, but because deep down you don't believe you should. Wealth flows to those who expect it, not those who wish for it. You must get your mind to the place where abundance is your default, where opportunities feel normal, not rare, where wealth feels inevitable, not lucky. That doesn't mean you don't work. It means your work is guided by conviction, not desperation. It means you stop operating from fear of lack and start operating from vision and value. Every wealthy person you admire started by thinking differently. Before the business was built, the wealth was imagined. Before the house was purchased, the possibility was believed. Before the millions were made, the mind had to be reprogrammed to handle the weight of wealth. And here's the real secret. Money is the easiest part. Shifting your mindset. That's the real challenge because it requires unlearning. It requires questioning everything you were taught. It requires surrounding yourself with people who make your old way of thinking uncomfortable. You cannot rise while clinging to the same patterns that built your limitations. The truth is, the bank account will always follow the blueprint in your brain. If you believe money is hard to get, you'll work 10 times harder than necessary. If you believe success is a threat, you'll repel it. But if you begin to believe that wealth is your natural state, that it's simply a reflection of the value you create and the beliefs you hold, you'll start making decisions that align with that identity. You'll stop chasing fast money and start building lasting value. You'll stop doubting yourself and start showing up with confidence. You'll stop tolerating scarcity thinking, whether it's coming from your environment, your peers, or your past. Nothing changes until your mindset changes, and once it does, once you truly start thinking like someone who's already wealthy, the world around you starts to shift, opportunities appear, resources flow. Doors open, not because the world suddenly changed, but because you did. Wealth starts in the mind because the mind controls what you believe is possible. And no one ever built an extraordinary life while thinking in ordinary ways. Wealth starts in the mind because it's not something you chase. It's something you become aligned with. It's not about having more. It's about thinking bigger, deeper, and bolder than the limitations that were handed to you. When you upgrade your mind, you upgrade your life. And that's where wealth truly begins. Most people spend their lives chasing happiness like it's a destination on a map, as if one day they'll arrive at a perfect moment where everything feels right forever. They attach happiness to conditions, more money, a better job, a perfect relationship, public recognition. But the truth is, happiness was never designed to be a goal. It's a byproduct. It's the natural outcome of living a life that aligns with who you are, what you value, and what you're here to do. When you chase happiness directly, it slips through your fingers. You might experience a quick high, a brief moment of relief, but it doesn't last. Why? Because the pursuit is external and happiness is internal. It's not found in something you acquire, but in someone you become. You don't get happy by chasing pleasure. You get happy by living with purpose. People confuse dopamine spikes with deep joy. Buying a new gadget, getting likes on a post, receiving praise from others. Those things feel good, but they don't produce sustainable happiness. As soon as the feeling fades, the emptiness returns. That's because happiness doesn't come from what you get. It comes from what you give, what you build, and who you become in the process. The irony is that the more you try to force happiness, the more frustrated you become. You set goals thinking they'll make you happy when achieved, but even when you hit the target, you still feel restless. That's because happiness was never meant to be the target. It was meant to be the result of moving in the right direction. It's like trying to capture sunlight in a jar. You don't catch it. You align yourself with it. Real happiness shows up when you're growing, stretching, contributing, when you're no longer living for validation, but living in your truth. It emerges when you do the hard things that lead to fulfillment, not just the easy things that bring quick gratification. It's when you say yes to the long game, the path of meaning, the path that might not look glamorous on the surface, but pays you in peace. This is why some of the wealthiest people in the world are miserable, while others with far less live with a deep sense of contentment. It's not about what they have, it's about what they've prioritized. If your life is built on constantly achieving, constantly proving, constantly competing, you may succeed outwardly but collapse inwardly. Happiness cannot grow in a heart full of noise, distraction, and self-neglect. You don't find happiness in the outcome. You find it in the alignment, when your values match your actions, when your habits reflect your vision, when you stop betraying yourself just to fit in or please others. That's when you feel the quiet joy of integrity. That's when happiness begins to stick, not as a mood, but as a mindset. A lot of people postpone happiness. They say things like, "I'll be happy when I get the promotion," or "I'll be happy when I lose the weight," or "I'll be happy when I find the right partner." But that mindset guarantees misery, because every time you arrive, you'll create a new condition. you'll keep pushing the finish line farther and farther away. And eventually, you realize you've lived your entire life chasing a feeling that was available the whole time. If you had just chosen to live fully now, happiness is in the moment, in the progress, in the presence. When you're immersed in something meaningful, you don't have to ask, am I happy right now? You just are. You're not overthinking. You're not comparing. You're not wishing for something else. You're fully there. That's the sweet spot. And it's only accessible when you stop making happiness the main event and start making alignment your priority. Think about a time you felt truly alive. It wasn't because everything was perfect. It was because you were present, connected, and doing something that mattered to you. That's what people are really craving. Not happiness in the shallow sense, but a deep sense of wholeness. A life that makes sense to their soul. To live like that, you have to stop outsourcing your joy. You have to stop waiting for someone or something to give you permission to feel good. You have to own your energy, your choices, your peace. And you do that by becoming someone who builds from the inside out. Someone who values growth over ease, contribution over attention, character over comfort. That's where happiness comes from. Not from getting what you want, but from becoming someone you're proud of. From doing the work, from loving deeply, living honestly, and giving generously. When you live like that, you don't need to chase happiness. It shows up on its own, quietly, consistently, powerfully, because it's no longer something you pursue. It's something you embody. Money doesn't make you anything. It only magnifies what already exists within you. People think if they just had more money, they'd become better, happier, more generous, more fulfilled. But that's a lie. Comfort tells you to avoid doing the real internal work. Money is not a maker of character. It's a mirror. It reflects who you truly are, not who you pretend to be when resources are low. If you're stingy when you're broke, money will make you even more controlling. If you're irresponsible when you have little, money will multiply your chaos. If you're generous, disciplined, and visionary now, then money will stretch your impact. But never assume that more money will change your values. It won't. It will expose them. It will shine a spotlight on the parts of you that used to hide behind excuses. This is why some people lose everything after winning the lottery. It's why athletes and entertainers can earn millions only to end up bankrupt within a few years. The money didn't fail them. Their mindset did. They thought money would fix the insecurities, silence the noise, heal the wounds. But money only turned up the volume, because whatever you don't heal before money, you'll bleed on everything after money. The truth is, wealth doesn't change people. It reveals them. It removes the masks. When you're not worrying about paying bills or surviving, your true values come to the surface. Some people get money and become obsessed with proving their worth to the world. Others become more grounded and use their abundance to uplift others. The difference isn't the bank account, it's the identity behind it. People spend so much time trying to get rich, thinking that wealth will make them powerful, but money has no power without a person of purpose holding it. Without clarity, discipline, and vision, money slips through your hands as fast as it came. Power without purpose is dangerous. It feeds the ego. But when money lands in the hands of someone who knows who they are and why they are here, it becomes a force for good. It builds, it blesses, it multiplies. That's why the inner work matters more than the income. If you don't master yourself, money will master you. It will become your identity, yourself. Worth will rise and fall with your bank balance. And you'll live in quiet panic, pretending to be someone while fearing the day your finances can't support the illusion. But when you've done the internal work, When you've developed character, humility, vision, and self-awareness, money can no longer define you. It simply becomes a tool in your hands. This is why some people get rich and become arrogant, while others get rich and stay rooted. It's not about the money, it's about what was already in them. If insecurity was there, wealth won't erase it. It'll inflate it. If gratitude was there, money won't distract them from purpose. It will allow them to pursue it more fully, because the money didn't make them. It magnified who they had already become. People also assume that money will bring peace, but peace is an inside job. Yes, money can relieve stress. It can give you freedom and choices, but it can't give you rest if your mind is still in survival mode. It can't give you joy if you're still battling with shame or comparison. That's why some of the richest people feel the most empty. Their external world is luxurious, but their internal world is starving. The solution isn't to reject money or worship it. It's to prepare yourself for it, to become the kind of person who knows how to steward abundance. That means having vision, discipline, integrity, and gratitude. It means not using money to fill voids that only healing and purpose can fill. It means being able to handle power without letting it poison your identity. The question isn't, what would I do if I had more money? The question is, who am I becoming with what I already have? Because that version of you is what money will magnify. If you're faithful with little, you'll be powerful with more. But if you're careless, entitled, or reactive now, money won't fix it. It will fuel it. So don't wait until you have wealth to become wise. Don't wait for riches to develop responsibility. Train yourself now. Be excellent now. Operate with integrity now. That's how you prepare for abundance, by becoming the person who can handle it without being destroyed by it. Money is not a maker. It's a magnifier. It doesn't change you, it reveals you. The real work is not in chasing money. It's in building the mindset, heart, and habits that make wealth meaningful when it arrives. Because when you become the right vessel, the money becomes fuel, not a mask, not a crutch, not an identity, but a tool in the hands of someone ready to change the world. Your income is not determined by your job, your degree, or even your industry. It's determined by your identity. Who you believe you are sets the ceiling for what you allow, pursue, and receive in life. You'll never rise above the level of your self-image. If you see yourself as average, you'll make average moves, accept average opportunities, and settle for average results. Not because of lack of talent, but because your internal thermostat is set to a limited temperature. Most people try to change their life by changing their circumstances, switching jobs, starting businesses, learning new skills. But all of those things rest on the foundation of identity. A broke mindset in a wealthy environment will still produce struggle. A defeated mindset in a promising opportunity will still find a way to fail. Until you change the way you see yourself, you'll sabotage everything that doesn't match your internal picture. This is why some people can attend the same seminar, read the same books, get the same advice, and still get radically different results. It's not about what they learned, it's about who they believe they are. One person hears start a business and sees possibility. The other hears the same thing and thinks, who would buy from me? That gap isn't knowledge, it's identity. Identity shapes behavior, and behavior determines outcome. If you identify as someone who is always struggling, even when money shows up, you'll find a way to lose it. If you see yourself as someone who can't succeed, you'll unconsciously avoid the moves that would elevate you. You'll procrastinate, self-sabotage, or play small, not because you're lazy or incapable, but because the actions required don't align with who you believe yourself to be. Your subconscious will always fight to stay consistent with your self-image. That's why change feels so uncomfortable at first. It's not just about learning new skills, it's about becoming someone new. Someone who can handle pressure. Someone who can attract opportunity. Someone who believes they belong in the room where high-level conversations are happening. Until that shift happens inside, nothing permanent will happen outside. The reason some people seem to keep rising is because they're not just changing tactics. They're upgrading identity. They decide who they are, and then they act like it. That decision rewires their mindset, their habits, their relationships, and their income. They stop tolerating environments that don't match their future. They stop accepting offers that insult their value. They walk with a different energy, and that energy creates access. You can only attract what aligns with how you see yourself. That's why pretending to be confident doesn't work. The world responds to who you are being, not just what you're doing. If deep down you see yourself as unworthy, you'll repel abundance, not because you don't want it, but because you don't believe it's yours to have. If you want to elevate your income, you have to elevate your identity first. Start by asking yourself, what kind of person earns the level of income I desire? How do they think? How do they speak? How do they invest their time? How do they handle setbacks? Then start living from that version of you, not someday, but now. Not when it's convenient, but while it's uncomfortable. Identity doesn't wait for proof. It becomes the proof. This is how people make quantum leaps. They don't wait for income to give them permission to act wealthy. They think, move, and operate from the mindset of wealth long before the money shows up. And when it finally does, it's not a surprise. It's a match. It's what they expected, because their identity made room for it. There are people with less experience and fewer resources than you making more money right now, not because they're better, but because they believe differently. They carry themselves differently. They own their value. They don't second. Guess their worth, and the world pays them accordingly, not because of luck, but because of identity alignment. If you want to change your income, stop asking what you need to do and start asking who you need to become. Who is the version of you that commands higher value, sets better boundaries, and lives with clarity and courage? Step into that version fully, and when you do, your income will follow, because income is just a reflection of identity expressed through value. The work isn't just external, it's internal. The shift isn't just in skill, it's in self, concept, because at the end of the day, money doesn't change identity. Identity changes money. And once you become the person your vision requires, the income will arrive to support the person you've already decided to be. We've been conditioned to believe that working hard is the golden ticket to wealth. Wake up early, stay late, grind harder than everyone else. But if labor alone created wealth, then the hardest working people on the planet would be the richest. The reality, some people are working 2 jobs and still can't break through. Others work fewer hours but live in abundance. The difference isn't hustle, it's value. Wealth is not a reward for exhaustion. It's a response to usefulness. People don't get paid because they sweat the most. They get paid because they solve the biggest problem. The world pays in direct proportion to the value you bring, not the time you trade. If your effort isn't producing transformation, it won't produce wealth. That's a hard truth for people who have been taught to pride themselves on being busy. But activity isn't the same as impact. You can be running in circles, grinding every hour of the day, and still not be moving forward. Because effort without direction is just movement, not progress. Labor alone is limited. You only have so many hours, but value, that's scalable. That's where freedom begins. The key question isn't how hard am I working? It's how valuable is the result of what I'm doing. You could mow lawns for 12 hours a day and barely scrape by. Or you could create a system, hire others, and multiply your impact and your income without multiplying your hours. That shift from labor to leverage is the difference between surviving and scaling. You must understand that people pay for outcomes, not effort. Nobody cares how long it took you to write the book or build the product. They care about what it does for them. Does it solve their problem? Does it give them clarity, relief, confidence, time, energy, or freedom? If yes, they'll pay. If not, it doesn't matter how hard you worked. It won't be valuable to them. This is why two people can do similar jobs and get paid completely different amounts. One is focused on completing tasks. The other is focused on creating transformation. One is paid for time. The other is paid for results. That's the gap. And until you close it by shifting your focus from labor to value, you'll always feel underpaid and overworked. Now, that doesn't mean labor is useless. It's part of the process, but only when it's tied to high leverage activity. Building wealth requires work, but not just any work. It requires intentional work that creates meaningful change in someone's life or business. That's where the value lies, not in how drained you feel at the end of the day, but in how much better someone else's life is because of what you produced. The wealthy don't obsess over effort. They obsess over value creation. They ask, what's the problem I can solve? Who has that problem? And how can I solve it better, faster, or with more impact than anyone else? When you start thinking like that, your income starts changing. Because now, you're not trying to outwork people. You're trying to outserve them. The market is a mirror. It reflects the perceived value you bring. If you feel like you're not being paid enough, it's not always because of injustice. It's often because the market doesn't yet see your value. That's not a cue to complain. That's a signal to elevate, increase your skills, deepen your understanding of your audience, package your solution in a way that resonates. Don't just work more. Work smarter, deeper, and more strategically. This is the mindset shift that separates income ceilings from income expansion. Labor can only take you so far, but when you focus on becoming a person of value, your time becomes more potent. You could do in 1 hour what others do in 10, not because you're better, but because you've learned how to produce more impact in less time. That's when wealth begins to chase you. It's time to stop glorifying struggle and start glorifying strategy. Struggle says, I'm grinding, so I deserve more. Strategy says, I'm solving, so I create more. That's the power of value. It doesn't care how old you are, how long you've been working, or how many degrees you have. It rewards clarity, precision, insight, and transformation. The sooner you internalize this truth, the faster your life will change. You don't get rich by working harder. You get rich by becoming irreplaceable. By being so valuable that the world can't ignore you, not because you're the loudest, but because you're the most useful. Labor alone is noble, but value creation, that's where the wealth lies. Fear is the silent assassin of dreams. It creeps in quietly, wraps itself around your confidence, and paralyzes your potential before you ever take a meaningful step. While failure can teach, redirect, and refine you, fear simply prevents you from ever getting started. And that's why it's more dangerous than failure will ever be. Failure gives you feedback. Fear gives you excuses. One can make you better. The other keeps you stuck. Most people are not broke because of a lack of opportunity. They're broke because of the mental walls they've built around themselves. They've convinced themselves that it's safer to stay where they are, even if it's unfulfilling, than to face the discomfort of growth. Fear of rejection, fear of judgment, Fear of losing what little they have keeps them operating from a place of scarcity, never realizing that the true cost is the wealth, freedom, and fulfillment they're sacrificing every day they delay. The irony is that most of the things people are afraid of never actually happen. They rehearse disasters in their minds, project worst case scenarios, and talk themselves out of action before life ever gets the chance to meet them with favor. They don't ask for the deal, not because they're not capable, but because they've already convinced themselves they'll be told no. They don't start the business, not because they don't have value, but because they fear it won't work fast enough. Fear robs them of their courage and masks itself as logic. But the truth is, fear is rarely logical. It's emotional. It's often inherited. It's passed down from parents, society, culture, those who taught you to survive, not to thrive. You weren't born afraid to take risks. You were taught to doubt yourself, taught to shrink, taught to play it safe. But safety doesn't create success. Comfort doesn't produce greatness, and fear never leads to freedom. You don't become wealthy by avoiding risk. You become wealthy by learning to manage it. You become wealthy by moving forward even when the fear is present. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the decision that your future is worth more than your excuses. It's the internal stance that says, even if I fail, at least I moved, at least I tried, at least I refused to let fear make my decisions for me. Look around. Fear is everywhere. It's in the hesitation when someone knows they're worth more but won't ask for a raise. It's in the doubt that keeps someone glued to a job they hate instead of building what they truly desire. It's in the silence that stops someone from sharing their message, launching their offer, or pitching their idea. And over time, fear becomes the ruler of their life, and they call it being realistic. But nothing about playing small is realistic. It's reactionary. It's the mind reacting to past pain, future projections, and internal limitations. The wealth you desire is often just on the other side of one fearful decision, the one you keep putting off, that uncomfortable phone call, that leap into your next level, that investment in your growth. Fear will give you zero reasons to wait, but every delay compounds your stagnation. Failure is not the enemy. Failure is a teacher. It's part of the process. Everyone who's ever built anything great has failed repeatedly. The difference is they didn't stop. They didn't let the sting of temporary loss define their identity. They learned, they adapted, and they moved again. Wealth is not built on perfection. It's built on persistence, on boldness, on the ability to keep moving forward with vision even when your hands are trembling. You must decide that fear will not be the loudest voice in your life. You must decide that discomfort is the price of transformation. That uncertainty is the bridge to abundance. That playing it safe is actually the riskiest move of all. Because while you sit still, the world keeps moving. The opportunities pass. The doors close. The compound interest of inaction starts to eat away at your potential. The most successful people are not the most fearless. They are the most committed. They feel the fear and do it anyway. They understand that fear is a liar, and the only way to silence it is with action. Every time you move in spite of fear, you weaken its grip. Every time you step forward, you retrain your mind to trust your power more than your panic. You're not waiting on the perfect plan. You're not waiting on more certainty. You're waiting on permission from yourself, because the future you desire won't come from the version of you that's still hiding behind fear. It will come from the bold you, the decided you, the fearless, in action you. The you who knows that fear may speak, but it will never steer. That's when your life starts to change, and that's when wealth begins to chase you. Being wealthy and happy isn't reserved for the chosen few. It's reserved for the choosing few. The ones who choose to think differently, act boldly, and become valuable don't chase wealth, attract it, Don't beg for happiness. Build it. The real flex isn't the car you drive or the watch you... Where it's waking up every day free, fulfilled, and on purpose. And you, my friend, were born for that life. Now go become the version of yourself that your future is waiting on. Because wealth isn't coming to who you are. It's coming to who you're becoming.